Hello everyone, thanks for joining today's live. So in today's live we'll be covering topics about what a CSS is and basic introduction to CSS along with the selectors. So far we have seen few tags like around 12 tags, and we tried to develop a small website using the 12 tags. So today we will see like the basic introduction to the CSS so that we get to develop few CSS concepts, how to improvise them, and how to make sure you write less code and implement it in a faster way. So in today's video we'll be looking at what a CSS is and how to get the source code of the CSS. Like you need to go to my GitHub, get the code from there, and load the project like we did for the web development for HTML, and then we'll look at selectors and types of selectors. So first thing is, what is CSS? So as we know, CSS is known as a cascading style sheet, and we use CSS for effects, animations, and to apply styles. So for what elements do you apply styles? For the elements that are being displayed onto the web page, and you display them using the HTML. So HTML is having tag to display the element onto the website. Whereas if we take CSS into consideration, CSS is not having tag. CSS is having properties. So if you want to develop a website, it's enough to have just HTML and CSS if it's a static website. So static website as in, even if you provide any input, nothing changes over there. So whatever you do, nothing operations, nothing additional functionalities will happen in that website. That's a static functionality. Whereas for example, if you type a username and password upon clicking login button, you get your name as hi and your username. So you get like that. That's called as a dynamic functionality. So there is a difference between a static functionality and a dynamic functionality, and if you want to introduce dynamic functionality into your web page or your website, then you need to start JavaScript concepts. Until then, we'll try to implement HTML and CSS, try to develop the basic front end, then we'll do the DOM manipulation. So for now, CSS. So where can you get the CSS files? This is the first step what you need to do. So we had HTML5 files, we downloaded those things, and from around 25 files we completed 12, and then we are left with 12 more. And now let's go to my GitHub account. Okay. So if you go to my GitHub account, in the repositories you'll have a follow button. Make sure you follow my GitHub record, so whenever there is any other new files or repositories or any other applications, so you can get to watch them, and all the applications that we develop over here, I'll upload it over there. So in here you search for something called as CSS3 course master. Click on that one. Once you go over there, there is something called download zip. Download the files. Okay, let's extract it here. Cut this. Let's go to D live. We created a folder for CSS, so let's go over there and paste it over here. And we know, right, what we need to do. We just need the starter file, so let's go back, let's paste it over here. Let's delete this folder, and let's create a copy of this and say it as completed files. So the reason why we are naming it as a completed files, it's obvious that we need a starter files as a backup. So we need to load this. I guess before loading it, we have some basic things that we need to look for. So what I'll do is I'll create a separate file, and let's start by learning the basics of CSS, so that this will be like the beginners class. even if you haven't watched the previous website development video. But still, what we can do is we can create a separate thing. So what we do is, let's try to load that folder. There is another way in which you can load the folder. Just copy the URL, file, open, and paste the URL over there, enter this window. So you have your CSS completed files folder over here. So what in HTML, as discussed earlier, we are having tags, attributes, and entities, whereas in CSS we have properties. For example, if we want to give a background color, let's create a new file. So in the completed files it tells I want a new file, so I'll create a new HTML file so that I can implement the CSS properties in HTML file itself. So I will say it as 01 underscore css underscore basics dot html. So that will be my file name. So I'll say css basics, and then for example, let's save the file. Let's open the terminal. Let's say live server port equals to 9000. Copy this URL, paste it over here, and let's open the CSS basics, which is empty. Let's go back again. Let's open it in new tab so that we can close it directly. So how do you change the background color for this HTML file? So you can see that this website is having a plain background over here, but what if you want to add a background color? So what we do is, if we create a section tag, a style tag over here, we'll say that, oops, in this we say for body I need a background color to be aqua, and when we go, we change the background color to aqua. So the first thing which we need to know is what's going on here. So in CSS, as I discussed earlier, we are having properties. So how are the properties being displayed over there? Here body is a tag, so whatever properties that we are going to apply, we are going to apply it for the HTML tags that we provided earlier. So what we are saying is that this body tag, whatever is there, I want to change the property. I want to change the property of its background to become from white to aqua color. So what I'm saying is that in CSS, I'm saying for the HTML tag called body, I want to change the background color for it as aqua. So this is called as a property. Background color is called as a property, and aqua is called as a value. So always the CSS syntax will be in a form of property colon value. So that is how it's mainly of. And then we also looked at the other properties as well, such as padding, margins, box shadow, and how we can add them. So how are they represented? As they're represented in the field of property and value. So background color will call as a property, and the value, whatever is there, is the value. So the next thing what we need to know is what are the different types of CSS available. I mean, how you can add a CSS to a page. For example, we saw that there were inline, internal, external. So let's try to create an internal approach first, then we'll go with what are the limitations, what's going on over there and all. Okay, so the first thing what we need to do is, let's this is called the internal approach. Okay, let's leave it as it is. So first thing what we wanted to do was, I wanted to create 6 paragraph tags. So lorem 40, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so as done over there, I created a 6 paragraph tags. For these paragraph tags, what I wanted to do is, I wanted to add a background color. One minute. I'm sorry about the first thing. This is not the internal approach. The one which I'm going to teach now is called inline approach. Okay. This heading is wrong, so let me go and change it over there. So yes, inline approach. So the first thing what I wanted to do is I wanted to add a background color for first paragraph. Okay, so over here I want to add a background color to my first paragraph. So what can I do? So we learned an approach. So what was that was over here I will write style equals to background color. For example, if I want the background color to be lime green, then I will add it like this, right? I will save it. I will go back. When I look it over here, I can see that the background color has been applied to the first paragraph itself. That's nice and wonderful. That's easy to add. Now what I want to do is the second thing, let's add it for the, let's add the same property for the second paragraph itself. So what we do is we can directly copy this one. Let's go here, let's paste it, let's save it, and we can see that both the paragraphs are having the green colors. Okay, then my manager said me that all the paragraphs should have the same color, which is green. So what I'll do is I'll go to all the paragraphs, I will paste this one, I will save it, I'll go near my manager again. And what if my manager says that, hey, I'm sorry about this one, I didn't want green, green doesn't look good, but I want the background color to be orange instead. So what if he says something like that? What you need to do was, here you can go, you need to change it to orange, right? Yes, you change now to orange. But what if your manager says, even orange doesn't look good, let's go with blue. It's a lot of task for you, right? It's just 6 paragraphs over here. But what if there are 1000 paragraphs? You cannot go and change all the time for all the 1000 paragraphs, right? These things are called as a limitations. So what is the limitation? The first thing is code duplication. Where do you call it as a code duplication? See, I'm using the same code. The style background color is orange for all the paragraphs over here. So why do you want to duplicate code when you can write it in one place and use it everywhere? That's easy, right? And here what we are trying to do is we are trying to mix both HTML and CSS together. For example, okay, it's alright that there is a orange background over here. I'm good with the background. I want a box shadow over here. I want rounded borders over here. Okay, in order to do that, what you'll do, you write a semicolon over here, space, box shadow, 10 pixels black, and I want rounded borders, so border radius 20 pixels. See, I'm getting over here, but you can see there is a proper, it's not properly done over here, it's coming out. So what I need to do over there is I'll give a padding, so I will say colon padding of 15 pixel. There should be a colon. So now it's properly been set over there. But if you look at your code over here, you are writing everything in the same line. The HTML, CSS, everything is in the same line. See, it doesn't make your code look good, right? You should make sure you separate your code. You separate the HTML part in a separate place, write it down in a separate place, or write the CSS in a separate place. Then only it looks amazing, right? If you write everything in the same place, then it will make your website look much complicated and if in order to change something you need to search for, like, oh my god, where is this thing, I need to change the border radius to 30 pixels, so I need to go there, I need to check where the border radius is and then change it to 30 pixels over there. But instead, if these things are separately placed in another place and properly written, then it's easy for us to change, right? So these things are the limitations. So as I said earlier, what if there are 1000 paragraphs? You just can't go and copy paste for all the 1000 paragraphs, right? Same code, you cannot do that. So there comes the next type of approach called as internal approach. So what happening over here is that rather than doing all these things, let's remove everything. The first style is inline approach, the one which we saw just now. The second approach is the internal approach. Now let's go back and check our paragraphs are like before itself without any effects. So what we'll do is this is what is called as internal approach. So in internal approach, what we do is the syntax is as follows. First we'll write the style tag, and within the style tag, if it is an element that we are speaking about, or if it's a tag that we are speaking about, for example here this is my paragraph tag. So for my paragraph tag, I want a border radius, background color, box shadow, whatever it is. I want to happen to all the paragraphs. So what I'll do is I will say for all the p tags that are in this page, remember in this page alone, all the p tags should have a background color as a lime green. If I save it and see over there, all the paragraph tags will have a lime green. So there is no code duplication over here. You're just writing one piece of code, and if your manager says it's not lime green, I want it as orange, easy, right? Just changing one word can change all the styles over there. Then if you say if you want a padding of 50 pixels, you say padding of 15 pixels and a box shadow. Let's drop a box shadow. We'll say 10 pixels and black. It's nice. If you want a border radius, go with a border radius of 20 pixels. Nice. Now you have a properly arranged over here. So if you want a width to be small, then say width of 400 pixels, you get a proper width. If you want them to be center, okay, leave that. We haven't discussed that property, so let's leave it as it is. Oh, let's go margin auto. It's aligning one over each other. So now it's properly aligned over here, right? So see, it's up to you, whatever styles you want, whatever effects you want, whatever things you want. What I'm doing over here is that, see, there is something shorthand. So what I'm it's like a much bigger thing. Let's leave it this in this way itself. So what I did here, I tried to apply few styles that we learned earlier. And what if our manager says I don't want a border radius? Then it's easy, right? Just remove this one line and it will apply to all the paragraphs that are over there. But there are few things in here as well. See, we try to create a background image as orange, and we try to add all other effects over here. So now we know what an internal approach is. So now that we know what internal approach is, there is an advantage over here, that you can see that all the HTML is placed over here, whereas all the CSS are placed within this style tag itself. So you are able to differentiate between these two things, right? It's a good thing that you have separated them, but there are still few limitations. And yes, you can change the styles just by changing one word, but there are few limitations. What is the limitation is that, see, there is a file called 01 underscore css underscore basics which we have created right now, And what if I want to create another file? For example, right click, new HTML file, 01 underscore css underscore basics underscore new, right? If at all I create some website like a page like this, and I'm having a paragraph tag over here, I said that for all the paragraph tags I need this to happen. So what I'll go over here, I'll say that I'll create a paragraph tag with lorem 40, and when I try to open it onto the browser, I can see it's just the paragraph as it is, right? No styles, nothing. Why? You know, we applied styles over here. We said that all the paragraph tags should have some effects over there, but why isn't this file getting any styles? Because the limitation of internal styling of CSS is that this effects will only be applicable to this website alone, this page alone. Only CSS basics.html will have these styles. All the other files will not have these styles. This is just applicable for this file alone. So this is one of the major limitation. Even if you try to write another style in another file, this file will not be, it will not get affected with any of those changes. So what if, for example, what I'm trying to say is that in CSS basics.html we are having 6 paragraphs. We added this style technique, and I like this way, the way I added style over here. So what I do is I created a new file called css basics new.html. So what I say is that I like this style, I want the same style in my website as well. So what I do is I copy this line and I say, or the whole set which I copied, I'll paste it over there. I will save it, and when I open it on the browser, even this is having the same effect. That's nice. But you should understand that what if my website, for example the website which I shown, or else let's take the website of a Facebook. Whenever you take a Facebook website, everything is the same, right? All the color combinations are same in all the pages, whether if it's a marketplace or whether if it's a group, whether if it's like watching some other person's profile or images, whatever it is, everything will have a proper structure. So it doesn't mean that you're copying and pasting this style tag to all the pages over there in order to get the styles applied to all the pages. So what we are doing over here is that it is a code duplication, right? See here I'm having like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 lines. 9 lines of code is being covered in this file, whereas the same lines of code are being implemented in this line as well. So whenever I'm executing that page, I'm unnecessarily executing them again and again. It's like code duplication. You should make sure your code number of lines are less, or else there will be a problem, right? The more number of lines, the more number of code you have, the more time it takes to execute in the browser. We want our website to be faster. So this is one of the limitation, that there will be a code duplication if there is like 1000 pages, and you cannot go and put this 9 lines of code in all the 1000 pages, right? It will be 9000 lines of code indirectly, and it's a waste of use. So rather, this is one of the limitation, and the other limitation is that these styles will only be applicable to that page alone. No other page will have these styles. So these two applications are having the limitations. So in order to get rid of these limitations, there is something called external CSS. So what's happening in external CSS, I'll explain for sure. But before I jump into external CSS concepts, I would like to know if you guys have any queries so far, because this internal inline CSS, whatever I'm teaching right now, these are the basics of CSS. Only if you understand how to get the CSS, only if you know the limitations of this CSS, then only it will be easy for us to know which type of CSS we want to add. For example, if I'm creating an application and if I know that only this page is going to have this kind of thing, then I will think about the one which is easy for me, which is faster for me, right? So that's why I'm asking again, if you have any queries, then please do send me a message in the live chat, so that whenever this light comes up, I will look into the comment section, and if there are any proper queries, then I will solve them right away. So I assume that there are no more queries so far, so I will jump on to the next topic, which is called as external CSS. So this is the external approach of CSS. For example, is saying that create a page1.html. In that page1.html, instead of page 1 and page 2, what I'll do is I will use the same files over here itself. It's easy for us, right? So right. So now that I have two empty files over here, if I just go back onto the live server page, it's empty, yes. So the first thing what he said is that create a h1 and a paragraph tags in that both files. So we create a h1 tag, say this is from page 01, and let's create a paragraph tag lorem 40 tab. Let's save it and say h1 again. This is from page -02 lorem 40 tab, right? So I'm having two outputs, right? So what I'll do is I'll open this output onto the browser as well. So this is from page 1 as heading from first file, and this is from page 2 as heading from second file. So why is there a difference in length is because of, for example, this is 100%, this is 100%, these two things are having same width, same, I mean, just that I increased it, it's like 200%, so I'll, yes. So now that you have these things aligned, what we do is we'll go to the next thing. It's saying that try internal for page 1 and see if there are any changes in page 2. We want everything live. We need to make sure everything works fine, right? So what he's saying is that try internal in page 1. Internal is nothing but doing a style tag and saying that for h1 I need the background color, I want it as a black, and I want color to be white. I want a box shadow for say so the reason I'm adding padding is because I want a gap inside the box. It's nice for me for now. So I tried it over here. Let's refresh and see. So this page doesn't get affected. So this is one of the limitations that we have discussed earlier. So we know that, see, it doesn't perform over here, but if what if we want the same effects over there? What we do is we copy this, okay, we copy this and we paste it over here. We say I want this to be happen over there, and I got the same effects over here, but I don't want this code duplications, right? So what's best technique is called as external approach. So what we do in the external approach is that we try to create a styles css file. So for example, these two things are the new files that I created as a html, and I'll say new, I want to create a style sheet. I will say this style sheet name as styles.css, and what I do is I cut this property, I cut all this thing, I paste it over here, I remove the style tag, I'll save it, I will remove the properties in this file also, I'll save it, I'll save it. Now that I know I need to refresh this. See, now that you see, I created a styles.css. I said that my h1 should have a background color as black, the color as white, box shadow, padding, all these properties I want this HTML h1 tag should have. But if we see over here, there is no effect at all. There is no change, not even a small difference, right? It's the plain old HTML file just like it was before. Why is it like this? Over here, if you look, you have this HTML file, you have this CSS file, but you need to create a link, right? You need to say that I need to link this CSS file to HTML file. Then only the HTML file will get the properties from the CSS and implement it on its website. So, in order to do that, what we do is there is a tag called link and press tab. Whenever you click on link, it's creating some link over here. It's saying href. It's saying which file do you want to choose as the style sheet. So I say I want this styles.css to be my style sheet, and this HTML file and the CSS file are in the same folder, so I can directly write the name of the file. So I say styles.css. Let's save it and let's open it. We can see that now that I created a link between the HTML file and the CSS file, we can see the effects are being applied onto this page. And what if I want the same effect? See, even if I'm refreshing, it doesn't change anything. But what if I want it over there as well? So I create a link tag again. I say styles.css. Let's save it. Let's refresh it over here, and you can see that the effects has been taken place. So the external style, what is happening over here is that rather than writing 2 times of this whole code, what you're doing is you're creating a separate file for style sheet and you are getting that file over here. So by using this approach, you are not implementing the same piece of code in all the files. It's like you're not writing them again and again. You're not duplicating the file. Instead, what you're doing is you're reusing it. You are utilizing the concept of usability, reusability. What you do is you reuse the code which is being defined over there. That's it. So this is the concept of external CSS. So now that you know the 3 different types of how to get the CSS onto the HTML, do you have any queries? Because once that we get to know about these selectors, I mean, now that you know how to include a CSS thing into the HTML, you need to know what are the different ways in which you can add a styles to a HTML tags. So there are a few more limitations in this place, because you know that if it's just for that page alone, you know which type of CSS to apply, which styling you need to apply for, and if it's just for that one division itself, then you know how to do that for, or if it's for whole website, you know how to do that as well. But you need to know the other concepts as well. If it's a tag, or if it's an ID, or if it's any other thing, then how it varies in CSS. How does one property vary from other property? These are the basic things that you need to know as well. So let's go on to the next topic called as the selectors. The selectors are the main topic for today itself. So once you understand this selectors topic, then it will make the CSS easy for you. It will make you to become a good developer only if you understand the selectors properly, right? Because see, there are like 6 selectors over here. So each selectors are having its own properties. So first let's go and look at the tag selector and let's implement them. So he's saying that create a new file called 01 underscore css underscore html. So we're saying create a new HTML file called 01 underscore css underscore selectors. So I created a file called css selectors. Let's close this. Right. So he's saying that create 6 paragraph tags. So it's saying p size 6. Okay. Control C, Control V. Right. So I said over there create a 6 paragraph tags, and see the reason why we are going to learn all the selectors is that because you need to know the difference between these selectors, because only if you know the difference between a paragraph tag and a h6 element. See, if you take h6 tag, it's having its style almost equal, the font size is almost equal to that of a paragraph tag, but you know the difference, right? The headings are bold, and whereas paragraphs are normal font. So that's why you don't write h6 instead of p all the time. So if you know the difference between the tags itself, you know how to implement them. Likewise, if you know the difference between the selectors and why they are used, then only you will understand the importance of the selectors. So yes, so he said create 6 paragraph tags, and let's open css selectors. Let's open that in a new tab. Yes, so we have a 6 paragraph over here. He's saying that add styles to all the paragraph tags. How do you add style to all the paragraph tag? Like the one we learned before, what we do is we create a style tag and say that for all the paragraph tags I want the background color to be lime green. Right, that's enough for now. Let's not add all the styles. Instead, what we'll do is we'll just go with the background color for now, and then we'll add one after other. So here, what's going on over here? Let's assume, let's analyze the syntax. So what's happening over here is that, see, you're saying that for all the p tags, so this is a tag, right? This is a HTML tag to display the paragraph onto the website. So what we are saying is that if it's a tag, then you say I'll just use p itself. I don't use a hash or a dot in front of it. I say if it's a tag, then it's okay to use just the tag name over there. I say that for all the paragraphs I want the background color to be lime green, and this one thing is saying that it's for tag alone. It's not a class, it's not id, it's not anything else, it's just for the tag. So you say for the p tag I want the background color to be green, and then that's as it is. So that is called as a tag selector. So the next concept is, what if I want the second paragraph to have a green color as a background? I want all the colors to be gone. I just want the second paragraph to have a unique color. Then what is a concept that we learned in the previously when we developed a website? We learned a concept called ID. We said that if it's just a single thing, then it's better to go with ID, right? You say that this ID is unique and it's being used once in the whole website, so you need to be careful with that. You say, for example, make me green is the ID name, so copy this and replace it in front of p. You said I don't want p, I want it for make me green. But make me green is not a tag, it's an ID over here. Because it is an ID, what you do is you put a hash in front of it and save it. Now if you look at over there, you can see that only the second paragraph is having a green background color. So this means that if it's an ID, then ID is for the uniqueness of the website. If you say that I just want the second paragraph to be green in color, then what we do is we do something like this. Then what if this next thing is, what if I want the third paragraph to have green color as a background color? I know it's good, but I even need a third paragraph to have a background color. So what we do is we try to go with the same approach itself. We say id equals to make me green again, but here you can see if I type make me green, the same ID is being repeated over here. That's why as the ID should be unique and it's not unique over here, it's giving an error over there. Instead I'll say make me green 1, and I say I copy this effect over here, I copy and I paste it. I say make me green 1, I save it. When I go back, I can see that my second paragraph and my third paragraph is having the same ID. But here you can see that there is a code duplication going on. Even though these IDs are different, but still the code duplication is going on over here, right? So there is a technique for that as well. I will teach you about the technique later on. But there comes the next concept called as class. So this is the limitations. As we use the ID selector, when we use it, it should be unique, right? So if it's a unique thing, then that's going to be a problem for us. We just can't go and say paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, make me green 1, make me green 2, make me green 3. What if there are 1000 paragraphs and I want 500 of them as green? You don't go and say all the 500 paragraphs as make me green 1 to make me green 500. You don't type like that, right? So in order to reduce this problem, what happened was they introduced a new concept over there. So what was that concept called? See, we went with the add color one, right? Like make me green 1. So it was done. But what's happening over here is code duplication. The same line is being repeated again and again. You just can't go write all the tags, all the IDs over there and write the same code. So instead there is something called class selector. So how do you do the class selector is that instead of ID you say class equals to make me green, and let's remove this. As this is a class and this style should understand that you are applying it for a class. See, it's gray in color because it's saying that you said there is an ID with a name called make me green, but I can't find an ID with a make me green. There is a class. So what you should say is that if it's a class, then it should be dot. If it's a dot over there, then it says that it is searching for a class which is having a class name make me green. So now I will save it. I will go over here. I can see that the second paragraph is having green background color. But what if my third paragraph should have the same green background color? What I'll do is I'll just write again class equals to make me green. You see, you don't have to do the code duplication over here. You can't find the code duplication over here, but what you're doing is that if it's green, if you want a green as a background color multiple times, then go with the class, because there might be 2 or more classes with the same name. There is no problem with that, but there should not be 2 or more IDs. I mean, like, the ID's name should be unique and should be used once throughout the whole website, or else there will be a problem. It will be confused, this properties, what to which one it should apply, which one it should consider as the first one, or else it will not execute at all in the worst case scenario. So now that you know about the class selector and how to apply the classes, do you guys have any queries so far? Because the concepts that I'm going to teach today are quite important and also are the basics. So once you understand, see, so far what you have understood is that if it's the styles being applied to one paragraph itself, then we go with the inline approach. When we do the inline approach thing, there is a limitation that you are mixing up HTML and CSS together. When what if there is a lot of properties over there, right? So what we go is that internal approach. We got to know with the internal approach, but the internal approach is just applied to that page itself. So what we did was we created another CSS file called styles.css and try to implement the external way in which we try to get the properties from other file and implement in the normal file itself. So once we got to know about that, we learned about selectors. The first selector which we learned was a tag selector. Tag selector is nothing but if you want to apply styles, if you want to apply properties for the HTML tags, then what you do is you select the tag. For example, if I say I want the background color for my paragraph to be green, so let's take this example. If I say my background color for all my paragraphs should be green, then rather than going with the inline approach and writing the style background color green to all the p tags, what we do is we just go with one p tag and we say that with the internal approach we say I want all the paragraphs should have green background color. That's easy to understand. But what if I just want only one paragraph to have a background color as a green with few properties? Then what we do over here is that we create something called ID, because this effects is being just applied to one division or one paragraph itself, so it's not repeating again and again. So the ID is a unique property, so this ID cannot be used again and again. I mean, the name of the ID which you given to one element, that cannot be used it again. So you say ID as a make me green, and you give all the properties in the internal way or in external way, whatever way you want to provide, you do that. So once you do that, what happens is that you apply the styles effects for the second paragraph. Then what if you want to add it for the new third paragraph as well? You don't create another new ID, because there will be a code duplication. It's like the same properties, you want it for the another thing itself. To reduce this problem over here, what's happened is they introduced something called class selector. So what they say is that if you want, if there are like 100 paragraphs, and among those 100 paragraphs you want like 10 paragraphs should have same properties, so rather than writing many IDs, instead what you can do is you can write a same class name. You can say that these things which are having this class name called make me green should have a background color as green. So in this case, my second paragraph and my third paragraph is having a background color as green. That is the reason why you can see as green. See, it's having class called make me green. And how does the style know that it's a class or it's a ID? If it's an ID, then here in front of this, if it's a tag, then it will just be the tag. If it's a p tag or a body tag or whatever tag it is, it'll just be like that. If it's a ID, then this tag there will be something called hash. If it's a class, instead of hash there will be dot. So these are the basic things that we need to know. Now that we know what a class is, what a ID is, what a tag selector is, we go and look at the other selector. So these are the things that we had discussed just now. So yes, do you guys have any queries so far? If you have any queries, then please don't hesitate to type in the comment section, and I'll get back to you regarding that. Let's assume that there are no more queries. And hi guys, thanks for joining the live. Yes, there are the few questions as well. I prepared these questions on my own when I was learning this selectors concept. I had these questions on my mind. Okay, it's like, can one tag have more than one class name? It's an amazing concept, right? So what can I have? Can my class name be more than one? See, for example, it's make me green. If it's a dot, for example, I want to add a what we say box shadow, dropping shadow is my class name. Let's say dropping shadow is my class name. So what I say dot dropping shadow right. See, it's having, right, the effects are being taking place. So with this we see that there can be two class names for sure, but you should make sure there is a space between these two things, or else it will be assuming that these both things are of one class name itself. So the first question is solved so far, that if we have more than, we can have more than one class, we can have more than one class names. The second thing is, okay, see, let's analyze the priority. Yes, now you need to know the priority as well. Okay, what is the priority? Don't worry about this one. For example, make me green, same like make me green, I say make me orange, and I say dot make me orange. So we see that we added make me green over here as the first class name. The second class name is make me orange. So let's see what will be the background color for the second paragraph, right? You can see the background color is make me orange. Why? You might be thinking about two cases. The first thing is the make me orange over here is the latest one compared to this. It is overridden. Or there can be another concept that first make me green is executing, then make me orange is executing. That's why it's happening. So what we do is we replace, we just try to skip these things, interchange these things. Now you see, first make me orange is there, then make me green is there. Then what should happen right now? What should happen? Then what we need to see, we can see that it's still orange over there, right? Why is it orange? See, even though first we wrote as make me orange as first one and the second is a make me green, but still you can see that the orange is being displayed over there. Why? It's because the priority goes on first as a make me green, next it will go with make me orange. So what will happen over here is that even if you write all the properties over here, the last property, the class property, whichever is there, that will be the most priority one, that will be executing over there. So what happened over here is that, see, there is something called make me orange, make green. Even you see the priority doesn't matters whatever is there over here. The priority only matters what is over here. So now that you know about this thing, let's go on to the next concept. See, in the green, make me green, what we did was we created a background color as a green, whereas in orange we made the background color as orange. Sorry, do you have any problem with the voice? Oh, I don't think there is any other voice, because I even turned my AC and my fan off. So there is if there is any problem, then please do let me know, guys, the other people who is watching live. If you have any disturbance, then please do let me know. So the next thing is, can we add a class name and ID name together? Now that we know what a class is and what an ID is, it's audible, right? That's nice. Cool. So now that we know what a class name is and what an ID is, we need to see, it's my mission. Let's okay, it's your mistake, sorry. No worries, man. Thanks for letting me know though. If there is any other problem, then please do let me know. If it's about the voice or any other thing, then I'll make sure on the fly itself I'll change it. So the next thing which we need to know is, let's add a class name and a tag ID name together. So what we do is we say space ID equals to let's go make me blue. As this is an ID, what we need to do is we need to have hash but not dot. It's make me blue. So I want a background color, let's go with aqua itself. And if you see over there, you might be wondering why. It can be two things. It's because the ID is over here, or it might be like this one, it's being executed later on, that's why. So what we do is we try to cut this. We try to paste it over here. Let's save it and let's look at the file over there. And you can see that even now it's still blue over here. You might be thinking because of this ID over here. So what we do is, let's cut it. Let's paste it in front of the class. But still, you can see that the background color is blue no matter what. So with this, it concludes that you can have ID name and class name together. But what happens over here is that ID gets the more priority. Then you might be wondering, what if my class is having something called as, for example, there is something called make me green. What we say, make me orange is there. So we'll go here, we'll say I have a box shadow. What if I'm having a box shadow over here? You can see the effects are being applied. Only the properties, only the background color. See, you see in this ID, in make me blue, there is only one thing called background color. And whereas in make me orange and make me green, they are having the background color itself. So you didn't find any difference. Now that I added the box shadow over here, you can see the major difference. What's the difference is that only the property that is there in the ID is getting replaced. Only this thing is getting changed to this one because of the priority level, but all the other properties are being applied. You can see that the box shadow is there in make me orange, and you see the box shadow has been applied over there. So now that you got to know that you can have ID and a class name together, whereas if there is the same properties between that ID and a class name, then all the properties of class name will be replaced by all the properties of ID. Whereas if you have any other additional properties in class, then what will happen is that all the properties in ID will be executed along with the properties in the class, additional properties in the class. So these are the basic things that we need to know, and we can only know once we try to implement these techniques. So once these things are done so far, do you guys have any queries? Because there are two more selectors. Yes. So yes, there are two more selectors that we need to know, 2 or 3. Let's see whatever it is. So until then, do you guys have any queries so far? So if it's related to anything, I mean the topics which we have discussed so far, or if it's related to the voice or any other disturbances, then please do let me know. I will be more than happy to solve it right away. Yes, so I hope that there are no more queries, and I hope all the problems are solved so far, because I am explaining all the worst case scenarios itself. Because you can see on online, but you don't get a live execution of these things. You need to understand which priority comes first, because if you know the priority level, then only you can start with the development process. If I say that ID is having more priority compared to class without explaining how it is, then you will never understand it, because it's the basic concepts. So I'm trying to implement the basic concepts on the fly as well. So let's jump to the next topic. Next topic is called as an attribute selector. So what is an attribute selector? So it's saying that create a new file called 02 underscore css underscore selector dot html. Okay, what we do is we create a new file, right click, new, html, 02 underscore css underscore selectors, selector or selectors, whatever it is. Yes, let me close this, let me refresh it. 02 selectors. Yes, now that I have the selectors file open, I need to know about what an attribute selector is. Just give me a moment. Yes. So before we go on to the attribute selectors, we need to know one concept called as form. So it's a HTML concept, but still let's try to learn a few basic concept itself, few basic things in a form. So if you want to create a table, what we do first, we open a tag called a table tag, right? So same way, what we do is if you want to display a form onto the website, we create a tag called form. Don't worry about the action. So I have a form. I want something called label. Don't worry about this. Once you get to see the output, then only you'll understand what these things are. Okay. Password type equals to password. So yes, let's save this, and we can see over here a form has been displayed. So it's not a properly arranged or designed form. So for now, because we need to know few concepts before we jump onto the form concept and try to implement it in a proper way, try to design it in a develop in a proper way. Before we do that, once what I want to do is, so you can see it over here. You have a tag. See, the boxes are over here, right? What if I want these boxes to have a color? What if I say I want a light salmon color to be applied for these boxes? What do you do? So you go and you say that, see, label is nothing but the text which is there over here, and these boxes are being displayed with the help of a tag called input. So if you want those boxes to have light salmon color as a background, so what you do, we go with internal approach, we'll say style, and this I say for all the input, because the input over here is a tag, right? HTML tag. So for HTML tag you don't do any dot or hash in front of it. You say background color, for example it's light coral for say. See, even the button is getting the effects over there. Why? But what if I just want the green color to be applied for the box beside the username itself? It's easy, right? What we do is for the ID in text over here, I'll say ID make me green, and instead of this I'll say hash make me green, and you see only the box over there is having a green color. That's easy to understand. But 1 minute, give me a moment. Yes, but what if you want the box beside the password to have a green color as well? Let's try to create another ID, and you can see there is an error because you cannot have two IDs. So what we do is, instead of doing that, if you want the color to be applied for both of these things, we can do one thing, which is nothing but we can add a class name over here. We are just trying to implement the concepts that we learned now in the form concept as well. So just these two things are green in color, right? So what if there is another technique called attribute selectors? That is what we are going to learn, right? So what if there is an ID? I don't want to use a class name over here. There is a way, or else what if, let me give you an example. I'm having input type equal to text over here. I just don't want the button, apart from button, all the other things which is having input type equal to text. For example, if you take a register form, Facebook sign up page, let's go with that one. So if you take this one, the Facebook sign up page, you can see that this is in a form of a text, this is in a form of text, this is in a form of text, this is in the form of password. If you are having three things over here, okay, you can just see three things. What if they are like 500 things? But I don't want to write class names for all these 500 things. I want a simple way in which I can add the styles for them. So what are this way? So what is this? This is nothing but input type equals to text. What I'll say is that for all the input tags that is having attribute called type equals to text, I want the background color for that to be green. It's easy to write in such a way, right? Rather than having, if there are like 100 things, 100 input type equals to text, and if you want all the 100 to have the same background color as a green, you don't create a class name for 100 things, but what you need to do is reusable code. Make sure you use the concept that makes the application less code. You write the code application with less code. So what you do is you say for input of what? Input of type equals to text, I want the background color to be green. It's easy, right? If I do in such a way, just this is just being applied for the input type equals to text. If I say input type equals to password, it's just applying to the password itself. So it's it's like writing a small code and implementing it to all the properties over there. So what if I say I want a background color for this to be blue whereas this to be green? Easy, right? I'll just copy this. Nice, right? So I got these properties over here, and if you want to just change the properties, and if I want the submit button to have a red in color, then what I need to do? It's easy, right? I will just do the same thing, but for me here type is submit. Let's go with the light colors itself, light coral. Right, you can see these are called as the properties. So now that we know how to apply these attributes, there is one more concept. These are called as the attribute selectors, right? Because I'm applying with the help of attributes. I'm selecting the properties. I'm narrowing down. See, input is a big category. Input is having like text, password, submit, and whatnot, everything. There are a lot of values for type equals to. Then what I'm saying is that I'm narrowing it down with the help of type equals to text. I'm writing it over here. I'm saying it that if it's the input with type is text, then I want that to have a background color this. If it's a submit, so all the submit buttons, I need the same properties over here. So it's like you're hitting like so many birds with a single stone. And there is the another concept called as a pseudo selector. See, what is a pseudo selector? For example, if you take this selectors which is over here, the attribute selectors, these are static things, right? This doesn't change anything. But for example, if you take Google, If you take Google over here, for example, if I move my mouse over here, you can see there is a shadow dropping by. If I go on a button, there is something like popping up over there, right? See, there are effects over here, effects taking place. How do you get these effects? These are dynamic in thing. But whereas over here, if whatever I'm trying to do, nothing changes. These are static effects. So what if I want to add a dynamic effects? Then comes a selector called as a pseudo selector. So how do you apply something called as a pseudo selector? So what I'm saying is that this is input type equals to text. How can you apply this? Whenever I click on this, I write something, right? So first operation what I'm doing with my mouse is I'm clicking on it. Only if I click on it, I want some operations to happen. So for that, there is something called as a focus. For text boxes, there is something called as focus. How do you do that? So if I'm saying I'm having something called input type equals to text, I paste it over here. I will say if I focus on it, so what should happen? The color should change to light, for say light slate gray. Let's do it like that. See, while I clicked on that, the color has been changed. When I came back, the color is back to its normal position. Click, change, click, normal. So this is called as a pseudo selector. So over here, it's because it's a text box. If it's for the submit button, so it's a different thing. So if it's for password, let's try to do it for password. Even for password, colon, focus. When I do that, I want it to go yellow. For example, green, yellow. See, it's giving users an impression that it's being focused. The effects are being applied. That is being highlighted. It's good, right? It's good and easy to implement in this way. So this is called as a pseudo. Then what if you want something to happen for a submit button as well? So for submit button, there is a concept called as a hover. These things are the place we write something. So these things are the text boxes. So that's why we have something called focus. But whereas this, we don't write anything. These are the buttons. So for buttons, there is something called hover. That's why what we do is we copy this, colon, hover. I want the color to change from that to whatever it is. Okay, let's go with this one. See, when I went on the button, when I hover on the button, the effects being applied over there. So these are the things which is dynamically being applied, and because of this dynamic effects, this will make your user interface looks much good. So these are called as a pseudo. For example, if you want to increase the size, for say when I go on that, not just the color, I want to increase the size, then what I do is I will go and say font size. Oh, it's increasing a lot, right? And don't worry about this one, we will learn about this effects. The only reason what happened was before we applied this transition, what happening is that it's like flash. There is no smoothness in that itself. See, it's going. What if I want a slow transition? So I said that it should happen for a 0.5 seconds of transition. So those things are called animations. We try to implement that concept when we learn the animations. So as soon as we learn the animations, we know how to implement these animation stuffs and all these things. So with this thing being said, we learned a lot of things today, right? So this mixed selectors, what we do in the mixed selectors is that I want you guys to go and create something like this. create a file. So I want you guys to implement this. I want you to implement all the concepts that are being taught. So you go and watch this live again and create a file called 03 underscore mixed underscore selectors. Create a UL tag and a OL tag. So unordered list and an ordered list. You create those things and add a styles for those concepts using the new things that we learned, like what we say, just add a color, background color for UL separately, add a background color for OL separately, try to implement ID and try to create the different IDs to be in different colors and try to go with the priorities and see what's happening and so on. So if you get to discover what is having priority on others, then only you will understand how to do the programming concepts easily. So with this being said, do you guys have any queries? So if there is any queries, then please do ask me up so that I can solve it right away. If not, then thanks for watching, and I will be online for 10 more minutes, and once if there is no more queries, then I will go and come back tomorrow live again. I'll discuss few more CSS topics. These are just the basic introduction to CSS and also get to know about the selectors. Tomorrow we'll try to implement the advanced CSS. I mean, those are not the advanced CSS, but still the beginner CSS concepts we'll learn tomorrow, and next class, after tomorrow's class, we'll go with the advanced CSS, or we again go with the HTML concepts again. So depending upon how much we can cover tomorrow, the next step will be going on. So thanks for watching today's videos, guys. I hope you had a great time. So I'll be online till 6 p.m. so if you have any doubts, then please don't hesitate to ask me up. So yes, bye bye.